Hello and welcome to part 53. In this video, we will learn about reflection. Reflection in C Sharp is a very powerful feature that allows us to inspect and manipulate code at runtime. Meaning, using reflection, we can read the metadata of an assembly at runtime. Visual Studio will use reflection to show us the suggestions when we type code in Visual Studio. If you look at this picture, when we type name and put a dot right after that, we can see all the methods which are available as part of that name object. So whatever we can apply on that name object is mentioned here. These are nothing but the methods which are available in string class. Reflection in C Sharp provides us the ability to examine types, their members, and invoke methods dynamically. Now let's understand what are the uses of reflection. As we've already discussed, when we drag and drop a button on a Vim form, meaning on a Windows Form application or an ASP.NET application, the properties windows uses reflection to show all the properties of the button class. So reflection is extensively used by IDEs and UI designers. Second use case can be late binding. We will understand what is late binding and early binding in the later part of this video series. But for now, we can understand late binding can be achieved using reflection, and we can use reflection to dynamically create an instance of a type, and we can also manipulate the properties of that object using reflection. So reflection enables us to use code that is not available at compile time. As we have understood, reflection is used to read the metadata of the code that we have written. So let's understand how we can see metadata of an assembly. I have given one URL here that is from the jetbrains.com website. From here you can download a tool that is called as decompiler. If I go to this URL, it will look something like this. From here you can click on this download button and download this tool. Using this tool, we can see what is the metadata that is generated by the .NET, and we can also decompile our assemblies using this tool. So once it is downloaded, you can start it from your start menu. You can type .peak and you will see the option of that software that you have just installed. Once the .peak software is opened, it will look like this. And from here you can see on the left side all the assemblies which are available in our system. And if you want to add your own assemblies, you can click on this green button here, the first one, and this is basically the open button. You can click on it and you can navigate to the assembly, meaning the .dll file that you want to explore in this software. So let's look at our student class that we have created in this video series. In this student class, we have ID property, we have name property, passing marks, age, and we also have school name, and there are some class fields also, like underscore ID is a class field, and we also have a class field that is team name, which is nothing but an array of string. Once we build this application, meaning once we click on build, it will generate the DLL for us. You can see build one succeed, and if I right click on my project and click on open folder in file explorer, it will open up the project in file explorer, and from here I can select bin folder. I will go to debug folder and then the .NET 6.0 folder. Within this, you will see we have the .dll file. This is nothing but an assembly. So assembly will contain all the code that is compiled, and it will also have the metadata. To check that, you can use this assembly in our .pick tool. In this tool, I have already added my assembly demo underscore string. And if you expand it, you will see this is the metadata that is generated for us. And if you expand the metadata, you can see all the information about our assembly. We can see it has 10 fields. Some fields are auto-generated by .NET. We have underscore ID, name, passing marks, age, school, team name, email. So all the fields that we have created are showing up here. Along with that, we can see the properties also. There are 8 properties defined here. And if you expand this, we can see all the properties that we have defined in our class. Along with that, it will have information about methods. Because we don't have any methods, that's why it is not showing up here. But because we were having the properties, that will auto created some methods for us, like for getters and setters. It will inject those methods, and we can see those methods here with name get underscore id and set underscore id. So this is how you can examine your metadata of an assembly. So C# reflection is all about reading this metadata and provide this information at runtime. Let's open up the Visual Studio again and understand the reflection with some examples. If you remember from the past video about C# attributes, we have used reflection in our main method where we have used get type, get method, and using these methods we were able to read the attributes which we have added to our method. So for now, let's remove this piece of code and try to understand the reflection. So I have created a customer class. This has two properties, name and address, and along with that it has two constructors. One is parameterless constructor and one is parameterized constructor. Along with that, it also has two methods. One is print name and second one is print address. So now, how you will create an object of a class? What you will do, you will type customer and use the new keyword to create the object, and after that you can use customer dot maybe print address to print the address, right? Let's set some address here, address equal to abc, like this. And if I run the program, you can see we are printing the address abc. So this is called as early binding, because at the compile time itself, the compiler will know where we have the customer class, right? If I remove this class or I change the name of this class to customer ABC, you will notice we will start getting the error because it will not be able to find customer class. It will say, are you missing a using directive or an assembly reference, right? So at the compile time, we should have the customer class with us. Only then we can use it like this and create objects of it and use it in our code. But using reflection, that is not the case. Even if we don't have the customer class, we can still create objects of customer class. Let me show you how. Let's suppose at compile time, the customer class is not available, right? But what we can do with reflection? With reflection, what we can do, we can declare an reference of type. Let's call it type t equal to, we can say type dot get type, and within this we can pass the fully qualified name of our class where it will be available at runtime. So our customer class will be available within the demo namespace and the name of the class will be customer. So the namespace or the fully qualified name will be demo.customer. And once that is done, we can use activator.createInstance t. So using this, we can create an instance of customer class. Let's call it obj obj equal to whatever the instance that is created using this activator. So this is how you can create objects without knowing about the customer class. Even if I remove this class, right? If I remove this class, still we are not getting any compilation error because currently we are using reflection to create the objects. So this is the benefit of using reflection. Even though the code is not available at the compile time, but still we can go ahead and create instances using reflection. Let's add the code back again And let's now see how we can print the properties, meaning the name and address, using reflection. So getting the information about properties is very simple. You just have to invoke get properties method, right? This method will return all the properties that are available within this type, meaning within the customer class. So let's store all the properties which are available in some variable. So the return type of this get properties you can see here is properties info array. So let's create a properties info array and let's call it properties, right? And the return type of it is property info, not the properties info. So let's change the spelling here to property info. Now the compilation error is gone. Now what we can do, we can use a for each loop to iterate through all the properties which are available using get properties method. And if I run the program now, you can see I'm getting name and address. Now let's say you want to print the information about the methods that we have in this class. To do that, you can invoke t dot get methods method, right? You can call it and you can see the return type of it is method info. So you can create a method info object. Let's call it method info or methods. And so once that is done, you can again use for each loop. If I run the program, you can see we are getting lot many methods: get underscore name, set underscore name, address, get address, set address, print name, print address. These are the one which we have created by ourselves, and the above four are the one which are automatically created by the .NET because we have created getters and setters. So automatically C# will create getters and setter methods for us. That's why we are saying get name, get address, and set address. And along with that, you can see at the end we are seeing four other methods that are get type, toString, equals, and get hash code. These four are coming from the object class because in C#, directly or indirectly, all the classes are inheriting or are inherited from object class. The base for all the types in C# is object class. So if I create an object of customer class, customer C1 is equal to new customer, and if I say C dot, you can see we have those four methods here also: get type, toString, get hash code, and equals, because these methods are coming from object class. If you see here, these are coming from object class object dot get hash code. So we are able to print the methods information also using reflection. Now let's understand how we can print out the information about constructors that are available in my customer class. So to do that, we can call t dot get constructors method, right? And again, this will have constructor info as the return type. Let's call it constructors, and again use a for each loop to print the constructors. If I run this application, you will notice something different thing. For constructors, because the name of the constructor is always same as the name of the class, that's why we are seeing .ctor here. Because the name of the constructor is nothing but the name of the class, that's why C# is printing just ctor. But we can print the parameters that customer is taking using reflection so that we can distinguish between these two lines. So to do this, what we can do, we can read the parameters properties of the constructor. So what I can do, I can call constructor dot get parameters, right? And you can check the return type of it. It is parameter info. So let's create an object of parameter info and let's call it parameters. And again, within this for each loop, we can create one more for each loop and we will iterate through all the parameters that are available like this. So first I will print the parameter name and then I will print the parameter type, right? So I can say param dot, let's run the program. You can notice here for the first constructor we have not printed any data type because first constructor is parameterless, but for the second parameter we have printed name and address and we can see the data type also. First one is system.string because we are using the string data type here for name, and the address is also string type, that's why we are seeing the string type for this also. We can use this parameters info for our methods also, right? Let's copy this code. Let's run the program again and we can see for our print address and print name we are not getting anything because both of these methods are not expecting any parameter. But let's say for example, let's add some integer parameter, string parameter and a boolean parameter just to show we are able to print it using reflection. And if I run the program again, now we can see for print address we can see A, B and C and we can see their data type also. So using reflection we can read methods, properties and constructor information. So to summarize this video, reflection in C# is a powerful feature that allows us to inspect and manipulate code at runtime. So at runtime, we can read the metadata of an assembly. Reflection in C# provides us the ability to examine types, their members, and invoke methods dynamically. In the next video, we will understand how we can create objects dynamically and we can invoke methods and manipulate properties dynamically using reflection classes. The main use cases of reflections are loading assemblies at runtime, intercept how assembly defines a particular item such as class or enumeration. Using reflection, we can get information about a property such as what is the type of this property and we can check if it is read-only or not. And using reflection, we can get information about the attributes that are added to our class members. So that's it for this video guys. In the next video, we will understand reflection in detail.